5:17 hours, Northern Persian Gulf, -214 nautical miles southeast of Bandar Abbas. The pre-dawn air hangs thick and salt-heavy above the flight deck of USS Abraham Lincoln. A faint amber glow pulses on the horizon. The distant exhaust trails of an FA-180 Super Hornet returning from a strike package deep inside Iranian airspace. The night is quiet. Then the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye screams. The call comes in on every tactical frequency simultaneously. Track designations flood the Aegis combat system across 3 destroyers. The numbers on the screen do not lie. And tonight, the numbers are catastrophic. 60-60. Airborne contacts. Bearing 310 degrees northwest. Inbound speed, 185 kilometers per hour. Altitude, between 60 and 800 meters. Wavetop to mid-layer. Radar cross-sections consistent with Iran's Shahed-136 loitering munitions. One-way attack drones, each loaded with a 50-kilogram shape-charge warhead. Each programmed to find the largest heat signature in the battle space and detonate against it. The largest heat signature in this particular battle space displaces 104,000 tons of American naval power. USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72 sits at the center of Carrier Strike Group 3. Her escorts have formed a layered defensive ring. To the northwest, USS Frankie Peterson Jr. To the northeast, USS Michael Murphy. To the south, cutting through 20-knot seas, USS Spruance. Each Arleigh-Burke-class guided missile destroyer carries a fully loaded Aegis weapons system vertical launch cells packed with SM-2 Block I IIC and SM-6 extended range active missiles. Each ship is a floating fortress. Tonight, all 3 fortresses go to general quarters. At the same instant, the tactical action officer aboard USS Frankie Peterson Jr. does not hesitate. He keys the command net. 4 words: weapons free. Engage all tracks. At 5:21 hours, the outer engagement layer activates. The SM-6 extended range active missile with a maximum intercept envelope exceeding 200 nautical miles and a terminal velocity approaching Mach 3.5 leaves the forward VLS cells of USS Frankie Peterson Jr. in pairs. First salvo, 4 rounds. The missiles arc north and northwest. Their active radar seekers scanning the inbound formation at ranges the human eye cannot comprehend. The Aegis system on USS Michael Murphy follows 6 seconds later. Another 4 SM-6 rounds screaming skyward. Exhaust plumes cutting orange streaks across the black Gulf atmosphere. Time to intercept, 38 seconds. The first 4 SM-6 rounds reach engagement parameters at 5 hours, 21 minutes, and 47 seconds. Contact, 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 contact. For Shahed-136, drones cease to exist at altitudes between 400 and 650 meters. Their warheads detonating in sympathetic explosions visible from the Lincoln's bridge, 60 nautical miles south. The second salvo strikes 4 seconds later. 3 confirmed kills. 1 miss tracks 7, survives and continues inbound at 190 kilometers per hour at 5:24 hours. The formation closes to 45 nautical miles. 53 drones remain. The mathematics of the engagement have shifted. Aboard the Lincoln, Air Boss Commander Rachel Tanner orders the flight deck cleared of all known essential personnel. 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters from Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 37 are already airborne, holding station 12 nautical miles to the northwest. Their crews have been tracking the formation since the initial E-2D call. Each Seahawk carries, for a GM-65 Maverick air-to-surface missiles, not their primary employment doctrine for this threat class. But in a swarm engagement, every available weapon becomes a primary weapon. The lead Seahawk pilot, designated Wardog 1-1, selects his first targeting solution at 5 hours 24 minutes and 31 seconds. Missiles away. Impact in 9 seconds. The Seahawks tear into the formation's leading edge, a GM-65 Mavericks, designed to kill main battle tanks. Find the small thermal signatures of the Shahed engines and track them with ruthless efficiency. In 4 minutes and 17 seconds of sustained engagement, the 2 Seahawks account for 11 confirmed kills, a burn rate of 2.5 drones per minute. Against 60, it is not enough. At 5:27 hours, 42 contacts remain. Range 28 nautical miles from the carrier USS Spruance. Surges north at flank speed 30 knots. Cutting across the Lincoln's bow to thicken the intercept layer. Her VLS cells discharge a continuous ripple of SM to block IIIC missiles. 9 rounds in 40 seconds. The ship's hull shuddering with each launch. The SM-2 engagement envelope at this range is well within parameters. 7 kills, 2 misses. Spruance reloads the firing solution and fires again at 5:29 hours. The inner defensive ring engages. The RIM-116 rolling airframe missile of the RAM system is the Navy's dedicated short-range defense against exactly this threat. Mounted in Mk-49 launches on both USS Frankie Peterson Jr. and the carrier herself. The RAM fires at a cyclic rate of 1 missile per second, each round capable of intercepting targets out to 9 kilometers at speeds exceeding Mach 2. The Mk-49 launches on Lincoln's Island superstructure rotate, acquire, and begin firing at 5 hours, 29 minutes, and 14 seconds. The noise is not an explosion. It is a sustained mechanical roar, a continuous percussion of launches. Each ram round leaving a white smoke trail across the lightning Gulf sky. 11 kills in 40 seconds. Then 15 more. The formation shreds. Then the sky erupted. 14 drones broke through the outer intercept layers. Simultaneously, a coordinated timing the Iranian planners had built into the swarm's navigational algorithm. A programmed surge designed to overwhelm point defense with simultaneous time on target. They came in at 60 meters altitude wavetop, below the minimum engagement altitude of the SM-2, below optimal ramp parameters. The Phalanx close-end weapon system, CIWS, 4 mounts on USS Abraham Lincoln's hull, spun up to 4,500 rounds per minute. The sound of Phalanx in full engagement is unlike any other weapon sound in the American arsenal. It is not a burst. It is a sustained mechanical scream, a continuous wall of 20mm tungsten penetrators, filling a defined volume of airspace with lethal density. Mount 1 engaged 3 contacts simultaneously. Mount 2 acquired 4. Mount 3 took the high line. Mount 4 swept a deck-level approach. 12 detonations in the airspace between 200 and 800 meters off the Lincoln's port bow. Debris rained into the Gulf. 2 more ram rounds fired from the destroyer. Screen intersected the remaining contacts at 1,200 meters at 5:34 hours, 17 minutes and 41 seconds after initial radar detection. The last inbound track disappeared from the Aegis display. Silence. Damage. Assessment teams moved fast. Hull inspection aboard Lincoln confirmed 0 penetrating impacts. 3 sailors on the destroyer screen sustained minor blast injuries from proximity detonations. 1 MH-60R Seahawk returned with shrapnel damage to its tail rotor housing. The aircraft recovered safely aboard Lincoln at 5:52 hours. The flight deck resumed normal operations by 6:14 hours of 60 Shahed-136. Drones launched from IRGC coastal batteries northwest of Bandar Abbas. The engagement tally stood as follows. SM-6 accounted for 19. SM-22 accounted for 14. RAM accounted for 15. Phalanx CIWS accounted for 8. The GM-65 Maverick, fired from the Seahawk helicopters, accounted for 11. Final total 67 intercepts. Against 60 contacts, the additional 7 rounds, representing duplicate engagements on high-priority tracks. Not one warhead reached the hull of USS Abraham Lincoln. 17 minutes. 0 American capital losses. 60 enemy assets destroyed. The tactical lessons were immediate, unambiguous, and broadcast to every naval command in CENTCOM's area of operations within the hour. Iran's swarm doctrine. Saturate the layered air defense with simultaneous low-altitude, low-rate cross-section platforms represented the most sophisticated employment of its kind ever attempted against a U.S. carrier strike group in combat conditions. The doctrine was not irrational. The mathematics behind it were sound. If the swarm had been larger, if the numbers had reached 120 or 150 simultaneous contacts, the calculus would have strained even though Lincoln's layered defenses at their current magazine depth. The IRGC's planners understood this. The question they failed to answer was not whether the swarm could overwhelm point defense in theory. The question was whether 60 units could execute it in practice against a fully alert, fully armed carrier strike group that had been tracking the threat since launch. It could not. Strategic ramifications cascaded through the region within hours. The Iranian General Staff had committed its primary asymmetric naval asset, the Shade Swarm, against the Lincoln, and the result was total intercept. Iranian state media's initial claims of successful strikes against the carrier collapsed under the weight of CENTCOM's own damage assessment footage. Released publicly at 8:30 hours on March 2nd, the footage showed Lincoln's flight deck fully intact, fully operational. FA-18 Super Hornets cycling through launch operations. as if the preceding engagement had been nothing more than a training exercise. This engagement fundamentally reshaped the operational calculus for every naval commander in the region, and, for every adversary watching, the carrier strike group had absorbed the swarm, digested it through layered defense, and suffered zero mission degradation. The Lincoln did not retreat. The Lincoln did not slow. At 6:30 hours, Strike Package Delta launched from her catapults, 12 FA-18E Super Hornets, laden with GBU-31 Joint Direct Attack munitions, bearing northwest toward targets inside Iranian territory that the swarm had been designed to protect. The protection had failed. The targets burned. Can Iran reconstitute this swarm capability quickly? The answer is yes. Production lines for Shahed-class munitions have been hardened, dispersed, and partially reconstructed even under the current air campaign. But the more durable lesson is doctrinal employment of swarm platforms against a prepared, multi-layer American naval defense requires a scale of saturation that strains even Iran's considerable drone production capacity. 60 units is not that scale. Perhaps 200 would approach it. Perhaps 300. What this engagement confirmed irrevocably and in live combat is that the existing layered defense architecture of the U.S. carrier strike group, when properly crewed and fully alert, does not have a gap at the 60 swarm threshold. The Persian Gulf remained open to American naval operations. The Lincoln remained on station. The strike packages continued to launch. 60 drones were launched to sink 104,000 tons of American naval power. 17 minutes later, 60 drones were debris on the floor of the Persian Gulf, and the Lincoln's catapults were already cycling for the next strike. The strait does not belong to the nation that threatens the loudest. It belongs to the nation that can demonstrate, in live combat, that its defenses cannot be broken. Tonight, Carrier Strike Group 3 demonstrated exactly that. The Persian Gulf remains open not through negotiation, not through restraint, but through demonstrated, layered, and absolute capability.